99. With in-house processing and on-site support, we personally handle your loan from origination.
Welcome to Clout 941. I'm the host, Ron Filipkowski, and this is the only live television show on Sarasota politics and issues. We got a fun show tonight. We have my opponent in 2008 election, Public Defender Larry Eger, here as a guest on our show, and we're going to skip our commentaries on the news, and we're going to skip our Weasel of the Week, and we're going to give Larry some extra time. Larry, thanks for coming on the show. Welcome.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Larry, tell us a little bit about your background and your family.
I'll give you, God, I feel like I'm back on the campaign trail.
I've heard it a million times, but why don't you let our viewers know?
Background was, moved here from Chicago with my mother and father back in 1968. My father had retired and from his job in Chicago, came down here, attended high school, actually junior high school and high school, and then went on to graduate from Manatee Community College. Went on to the University of Florida, graduated then from the University of Florida Law School, and while I was in law school, I went and clerked with Elliott Metcalf. I believe it was my second year of law school, and I've never left since. And I've with Elliott as an attorney for almost 25 years before our campaign.
We're going to get to that in a minute, but tell me about Elliott Metcalf first. What was it like? He was a public defender for, what, 23, 25 years. What was it like to work for Elliott? Tell us a little bit about him.
Well, actually, he was the public defender for 32 years.
Okay, 32 years.
And so, and just recently retired. It was extraordinary. He gave us the ability to be ourselves and to work the office. He was not a kind of hands-on sort of individual. He cultivated a group of attorneys. We've certainly grown over the years. It's interesting to see how much we've grown. But it was just, I can only tell you that when in law school, I was sort of aimless going to law school because it seemed like the thing to do. Walking into that office as a clerk and working with Elliott, I knew that became my life's work. I never saw myself as replacing Elliott someday, but I saw myself working with Elliott forever.
Tell us a little bit about, for people who aren't familiar, what the Public Defender's Office does, just briefly in a nutshell.
All right. We are a constitutional office, much like the state's attorney's office, tax collector, property appraiser, supervisor of elections. So we are outlined by the Florida Constitution. And in a nutshell, what we do is we provide legal representation regarding criminal cases to the poor. That kind of encompasses everything. We've expanded over the years. We handle the juvenile cases. We also handle mental health cases, or Baker Act, which is actually a civil proceedings, but because it involves the possibility of your losing your liberty, meaning you can be involuntarily hospitalized, a public defender is appointed to represent you if you cannot afford to hire your own lawyer.
And how many people work for your office?
We cover 3 counties, which we're the 12th Judicial Circuit, which is Sarasota, Manatee, and DeSoto counties. Between the 3 counties, we have 42 attorneys, and we have about 43 support staff. Actually, 45 support staff. So we're actually down over the years. We have, even though the caseload has increased because of budget issues, we've been able through attrition, but we're actually about 14 full-time employees below what we're supposed to be at this point.
It's got to make a difficult job even more difficult.
We manage.
Now, you knew Elliott wasn't going to serve forever. He was getting up there in age. When was it that you first started thinking about possibly running for his position?
Well, you have to understand, Elliott has flirted with the idea of retirement for almost as long as I've worked there, it seems. So I would disagree. There was a sense of belief that he would be there in perpetuity. And, you know, as oftentimes he said, well, I'm not going to run again, he ran. So I guess in all of us, we're kind of lulled into this belief that he would be there. And I guess this is I don't want to, he's not that old. So maybe that's what I should say. But he made it quite clear to me before he retired that, or before he made his announcement, because he didn't make that announcement for some time, even when both of us were running.
That's right.
He didn't even announce his retirement.
That's right.
And so, there was always the thought in the back of my mind, if he decided to run again, I would certainly not run against him.
Right.
Because at the time of his retirement, or when he decided not to run, I was the chief assistant, so I was head of the Manatee County office. But it was really at that point that I gave it serious consideration.
Why did you decide to run? What made you want to run to be the public defender?
I just thought I could do a great job. It's something that I loved. I loved the office. In hindsight, looking at it, I started out as a clerk, and I've gone from the very bottom of the ladder to the top rung. So I've just ascended to that degree. I felt that based upon my relationship with the people in the office, I got tremendous support from them. I got tremendous support from the judiciary, and I got tremendous support from other constitutional officers. And believe me, my mother was in politics years ago, and seeing what she went through in campaigns, I never in my wildest dreams thought I would run for public office.
I was going to ask you a little bit about that topic in a minute, but well, let me ask you this. At the time that it sort of became clear to a lot of people that Elliot was not going to run, there were a lot of people out there that were thinking about running. A lot of names that were floated around. But it ended up only being the two of us in the Republican primary. Did you expect more people to run?
You know, I don't know if I had any real expectations. In some ways, I didn't know what to anticipate, and from that perspective, there were always people who thought of it, but nobody who really stepped up and said, I'm going to run. And in many ways, we looked from within the office to see who might be running for the position. And other than Adam, no one really voiced a desire. I was surprised that, if you remember, there were three of us actually in the beginning of the campaign. Steve Watson, who is still in the office, had entered into the race. So there were actually three of us. And in some ways, it made it difficult because, having worked with Stephen as long as I had, I didn't want to dilute that issue. So I really didn't know what was. Let's put it this way: there was a tremendous amount of naivete on my part when I ran for public office.
Okay, we'll talk about that when we come back from our first break. It's time for our first break. We'll have more with Public Defender Larry Eger.